Hey everybody, it is your host Kirby Gunnarsson, aka the Bald Brawlers, aka your no longer defending champion of the Yarski Fantasy Football League. I'm here with my co-host as always, Zachariah Earlbeck. Zach, how we doing today?
It feels fucking good to be back, Kirby. Golly, does it feel good to be back? You know what? I wasn't sure. People were saying nice things, and then we kind of got to do the draft, and people were like, "You guys are doing the podcast again this year," and I was like, "God, people actually kind of like that." It kind of warmed my heart. So I'm ready to roll. Let's make some magic, Kirby.
Ready to roll, baby. And you know what? After the first amazing draft outing we had with the amazing golf outing that we had, no one else that we could have for our week one guest than Kyler Luddy Ludwig, Mr. 59 himself. Luddy, how are we doing today?
What's up, fellas? Glad to be on the show. I told Caitlin that I got to do the podcast tonight, and she's like, "Really?" I was like, "Caitlin, this is like literally my second favorite thing about the whole fantasy football season. I'm like listening to the podcast and the golf." So I'm like, I'm asked today to be on the show. Hell yeah, I'm gonna be the first one on the show. Number one subscriber, baby.
First guest, baby. That's a huge honor.
That's a huge honor.
It was funny that I was talking to Katie. I was like, "Oh wait, you guys are really doing that again this year?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, we are. The people need it, damn it." So we got to give the people we want. We're a podcast.
We got to give the people what they want, baby.
I figured you just wanted the Breeda Champ as your first guest, so I figured that was pretty fitting that your Breeda Club Champ is.
Well, I was gonna say, Lud. I thought maybe like the fantasy golf outing just really juice you up because that's the day you shot your 59. Yep. This last round you basically carried your team to victory, but you are a Breeda Champ, so you're not only just good on the fantasy days, you're pretty overall good. I would say.
We'll take that. I'll take that any day.
Perfect. Well, hey, before we dive into the actual draft day festivities, along with the golf outing and some of our thoughts on the draft, we would be remiss to at least not mention last year's champion, the guy who beat me in the championship, Mr. Taylor Pudence, the brand new father. He is now the proud owner of the belt. I mean, major kudos to him. And with that amazing stack of Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen and the running backs of Chubb and Cook, there was no one else that was going to even come close to him. So kudos to him. And Zach, what do you got to say for last year's champ? I mean, he does no work at all, and he has more work than you put into like how many years for this.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to tip our cap. I mean, Pooty went from a guy who had never made the playoffs ever to the full 180. A lot of people are going to put an asterisk because of COVID, but not me. That was legitimate. I just think he had that. I think we even said it halfway through the pods last year that Pooty was the team of destiny. I think we called it pretty early on. Pooty had the team of destiny thing going on. You could just tell his little stack. He had the running backs. I mean, he just had that something special, and he was the team of destiny. We called it early. So, kudos to us for being right on the money on that one.
The only thing we messed up was I remember the very first one, our power rankings. We had Jared, I think, like number 1 or 2, and then he never won like a game again and missed the playoffs. So that was our first team of destiny that missed. Thank the God, Lord. But you know what? We could always do that. But with that in mind, we also have to touch base on what the worst of the worst. Shane losing to a 1-win Josh Axman team and then proceeding to have maybe the worst Sacco speech of all time. I mean, it pushed back the draft another 45 minutes because he couldn't figure anything out until the day of. And that was just horrible. I mean, Luddy, what were your thoughts? You were there.
Yeah, and he rode back with me and Josh, and we stopped at Taco Bell, and he was like, "I haven't written my speech yet." Like, what do you mean you haven't written your speech yet? So he's like, "Well, pull up your guys' teams to see who, you guys had last year." So we kind of got that for him. And then he would be like, "Okay, Kyler beat me because he had so-and-so. Kirby beat me because he had so-and-so." Like, that was the worst bulleted points that you could have ever came up to say why your team was the worst. So I definitely agree. It was probably hands down the worst speech we've ever had. Hopefully he doesn't get it again. I'm sure he doesn't want to, but maybe prepare a little bit more than what he did. And it wasn't good.
I mean, I know he's not a speech guy. That's fair, but boy, the amount of preparation was basically zero. What do we expect? A shitty fantasy team and a shitty speech. So it's a well-deserved Sacco, and I hope he hangs that nutsack on his wall of pride this year.
I was about to say that's one precedent I think we need to have sent before Sunday's game is we need to make sure that thing is in the living room, either hung up or on that TV stand, because I didn't get final confirmation when I left that thing is up there. So, Sap, when you listen, we need to get that picture sent to the Yarsky group chat ASAP. Damn it.
Yeah, Sammy started to seem like she was getting cold feet, so we better push a little bit on that. So.
Yeah, she was pretty vocal though about that it was going to be hung up and this is where it was going to be. And
we got receipts,
Morgan
baby.
Came on the show, when Morgan came on the show, right? Yeah, Morgan came on the show with Sammy, and they were talking about where it would go, and unfortunately, Sammy drew the short end of the stick with her husband's shitty team. So
that was the beauty of getting them both on. We could at least hold them. Sammy, you're the one that said it's being hung straight in the living room, so now is the time to read receipts, baby. We got exactly what you said. It's time to give the people what they want. Damn it! So.
It's on YouTube. Good. It's out there for people to see. So
I know, and this is a prestigious podcast, so people are going to call them out on them everywhere, on the streets, in the grocery store, at work. If you don't do it, you're going to get called out everywhere. Damn it! But you know what? Jared gave a hell of a speech 2 years ago, so it's hard for Shane to truly live up to what Jared did 2 years ago, because that was a masterpiece.
Yeah. Jared had to practice though with 2 years in a row, so he had a little practice on what to do.
That is true. That is a valid point. Perfect. Well, hey, that's a little bit good recap of last year before we jump into the 2021 season. So I guess we can kind of lead it off. We had 4 versus 3 golf outings. We had me, Zach, Bill, and Pooty versus the team of Kyler, Josh, and Shane. And so, Kyler, I don't know if you want to give just a quick overview of what all went down, and then we can kind of dive into your power rankings, and feel free to loop us in for our thoughts whenever you feel like it, man.
All right. Well, it was a great idea on your guys' part to do the draft with me and Bill. And with the odd number, that was kind of, I don't want to call it an advantage, but, that was kind of, instead of giving somebody a shot or hitting 2 shots or 2 putts, you guys had the extra golfer. And it was just so funny leading up to, like, I thought serious about strategy. And I know Kirby was a part of it, but I wish everybody could see the strain of text messages between me and Kirby, me and Pooty, me and Sap, me and Bill on strategy of how this was going to go down. And long story short, so I really wanted, obviously we knew Pooty was going 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought it was going to be Sap is who I thought the number 2 pick was going to be. So I asked Bill who he thought was going to be my first pick, and he told me Kirby. And I originally had my team to be me, Kirby, and Sap. Well, when he told me that he wanted that I was going to take Kirby, I was like, well, shit, if I don't take Kirby, then Bill's going to take Kirby. So I don't know. I think that was his game plan, but I thought maybe he was screwing with me. So I wanted Sap on my team, so his head would be in Bill's along with mine. And then I kind of wanted Josh on the other team, so Sap and Josh could duke that out. But then as soon as he said that he was going to take you, then I was like, well, shit, I got to take Sap, because if I take Kirby first, he's going to take Shane, and then I'm going to have Axman on my team, and then Sap's on the same team as Bill. I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I think how I picked the team worked to my advantage, getting in heads, even though your team came full throttle back, which I wouldn't have expected anything else. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Curb, since you were kind of part of the
it was a funny nuance. I was surprised to even be considered up there, because I thought for sure, like, me and Zach intentionally said we're going to make, like, instead of doing a snake draft, we wanted to make Bill get the first and third picks. We didn't want Josh and Shane to be together, because we thought those two would easily be together. So I was actually surprised when I was picked earlier. And so when you asked who I thought Bill would take, I was like, oh, I think he's shooting shit up your ass, and he would take Josh because he's the better player. But then after you texted me, I texted Bill. It's like, hey, I won't tell Kyler, but I gotta know, will you take me if he takes Shane? He's like, oh, I'm absolutely taking you. I'm like, okay, Kyler. Well, the ball is in your court. Either you take me first, or you're not getting me.
Then that was funny to see the text messages after the fact that Curb is texting Bill and me at the same time, but doesn't let anybody know that he's talking to the other person. So kudos to Curb about being kind of under the table, trying to make a deal. And unfortunately, you just I shouldn't say you drew the wrong end of the stick, but I wasn't signing up to lose. So I kind of knew that my team's going to win with 3 guys. And then Pooty, he had a whole list of his team versus our team on what every score was. And he had us down for a couple bogeys. And I'm like, fuck, I'm insulted. Like, I am not making a bogey today. And
that was very dumb.
It was a tight match, and you guys with the bogey on the last, that obviously killed your guys' chances. It would have been fun to keep going and playing like extra holes. I mean, it was heading that way.
It would have been a very interesting because those first 3 holes were very close, and there's potential birdie holes if someone has a great shot, but it was very, very tight. But we just drew the short end of the stick with our drive on 9.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirby and I, the whole point was to try, 1, to make it as close as possible, but 2, make it as fun as possible.
Right.
And when you have Axman saying, I kind of hope they par 9 so that we can keep playing, it's like, that means we did a damn good job at hitting our 2 goals. I think it was just about perfect. Obviously, it would have been fun to play a few more holes, but I mean, I think about as close and even as fun as a golf thing as I've done in forever.
I agree, because even if you look at the holes and the shots that were taking place throughout the round, we both parred 1 and 2, and then we both birdied 3, and we had close approach shots, and then we made eagle and you guys made birdie, so obviously that was a big swing. And then I think we both parred 5 and 6, and then you guys birdied 7 to tie it up, and then Zach's infamous chip in for birdie on number 8, which I'll get back to that. But yeah, that was a big putt for me to make, just to push, to get to going into 9 evened up, and then you guys just started snapping towards the out of bounds. Yeah, it was
not a good day to fall apart on my last drive, that's for sure. But you know what? You live and you learn, and we got started with the draft at a better time for everybody. But the golfing was top notch this year, so can't wait for next year to run it back again, and we'll get Roscoe in the dash, and hopefully Schultes and Jared be able to make it back as well.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, Luddy. Well, I think we kind of get a decent recap. So I guess now might as well touch base on your power ranking. So it is up to you. You can preface this however you want. Is it just how people played this last weekend, or how you think they are overall? So you lay the groundwork, and then you let us know what your kind of rankings are for however you want to justify it.
So
now,
Zach,
let me ask you a question.
What we did last year.
Do you want? Okay, I was going to ask if you want me to give you the ranking from last year. Do you want those?
Yep.
Okay. So first of all, what you said last year I thought was hilarious. You said, I'm going to give everyone, I'm going to rank everyone what I disrespect about everyone's golf game.
Oh, yeah.
So you went through and shit on everyone's golf games. But so last year it went 10 Schultes, 9 Jared, 8 Ross, 7 Zach, 6 Kirby, 5 Sap, 4 Axe, 3 Pooty, 2 Tino, and obviously your boy Luddy at the top.
Okay. So I guess as far as what I would say everybody's golf game from an overall standpoint probably doesn't change that much. I got my own opinions, but I think I do switch Ross and Zach after the heat that I took last year. So shout out to Dr. Ross.
So what you're saying is you're only switching us because you took immense pressure and not due to the actual golfing. That's what I heard. So you can just move on, but that's what I heard.
But it's tough because I played with Ross at Sap's bachelor party. And I was impressed because I hadn't played a lot of golf with Ross, obviously, since, probably, I don't know, long time, since he's down in Texas and whatever. So, and like Jared and Schultes, they don't play much. So I would stick them up at the top. And then, I don't know, maybe Zach's up there compared to Ross. I don't know. But I think if Ross, when he comes back and he can play next year, then I think it would probably validate. I definitely think Zach plays way more golf than probably a lot of us besides Bill.
Doesn't necessarily translate to high quality golf, but hey, it's all about getting out there, damn it.
Hey, I envy Mr. Rollback on his golf game. So anyways,
so
I would
I'm gonna hop in here quick.
Yep.
Luddy, I have no issues being at 8 in front of Schultes and Jared, but I just wanted to remind you, last year Sap absurdly said that I was 10 behind everyone, and I just want to remind everyone how absurd that was.
That's pretty absurd.
So sorry I interrupted. This is your rankings. I'll shut the fuck up now.
And I also, who's left? Then Ross, then Curb.
Yep,
and then Sap and Axe. Maybe they could be interchangeable. Where I think Sap could probably have a more advantage if we get away from Brita. But I think I'd still keep Josh there. And I guess I'll kind of get to that too. But I think next year, if the draft is going to be in Bondurant and we go play wherever we go play, I definitely see myself changing my rankings. I feel like Josh is a big homebody golfer that if you move him somewhere where he's uncomfortable or maybe a little bit more length, then I think he definitely falls down the ladder quicker. And then I would actually move Kirby up for sure. I don't know if Kirby gets in front of Shane, but I would probably move Shane up, Kirby up, and then Josh to 6. But anyways, time will tell. So I think with the rankings, I think it's better to recap my rankings from Saturday.
So this is just one day's rankings and how we performed that particular day. This
Correct.
has nothing else to do overall golf rankings. That
Right.
doesn't change much. This is one day how we did in terms of Sunday in our performance when it all matters most.
Yeah, so obviously with Schultes, Jared, and Ross not being able to be there, we'll just say that they're 10, 9, and 8 for this ranking. So I think
you look a little uncomfortable, Luddy.
I do. Huh. So Zach, it's hard because I don't know. I'd probably put him at the 7th spot, even though his wedge game was unbelievable. So I don't think I put Zach at 7. I'm actually going to put Shane at 7. No, I take that back.
Ooh.
I think I put Pooty at 7. Pooty's golf game on Sunday was horrendous. Like, I have never seen him play that bad. And he told me that he's like, a few days before, he's like, hey, do you know when the last time I played golf is? I was like, well, I don't know. He goes, well, do you know how old Paxton is? I was like, well, she's probably 5 weeks. He goes, yeah, I haven't played golf in 5 weeks. Pooty, it looked like he hadn't played golf all year. He really struggled off the tee, which I've never seen him do that. He did hit a couple good shots. I know that you guys used this tee shot on the par 3, number 2, and he hit a pretty decent shot in there. And then I don't think you guys used anything on 3. I don't think you used anything on 4 or 5 or 6, 7, 8.
9 we used this punched out. 9 we used this punched out. 8 we used Bilt's drive.
That was Bilt's drive?
It was me or Bilt. I know it wasn't Pooty's.
I think it was you. I thought Bilt was left.
Then it was me.
Okay, so
yeah, it was Kirby right.
I think he used like 2 of Pooty shots, 1 on the par 3 and
the punch out.
A punch out shot. So I put Pooty at 7, which he's going to come at me for that. But I've never seen him play that bad.
You're just ranking how he played that day, which I
Yes.
think even he would admit he sucked ass.
He did suck ass. So I put him
Love
at
you,
7.
Pootie.
So then, I got 6 and 5 are pretty dang close. I would go. I think I'm going to put Zach at 6. I don't know. Maybe I don't. See, I'm so torn because Sap's the other person in contention here, and Sap was on my team, so I don't want to throw my teammate on the bus because I told him that I wouldn't pick a different team other than those two that I had that day. The reason I would say I would put Sap at 6. So Sap's, I think we used his second shot on 1. And then I think the next shot we used of his was maybe 7, his second shot. And that was it. And there was nothing impressive about the shots that we used. And I don't want to take away, like, if somebody hit a good shot, but mine was better, that you can't say, like, hey, your shot sucked when it was probably a good shot. But we didn't use hardly any of his shots. I would still pick him on my team. Number 1 for me, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I put him at 6, and I put Zach at 5, which I know is I'm gonna get some heat from Shane for sure. And so Zach's putting. I don't know if you made any. Did you make any putts?
I think
you made
I
the birdie putt
on 7.
He made the birdie putt, so he led. He was always on leadoff putter, and so he made the big birdie putt to tie it, and then he made the chip the next hole.
Yeah.
And before you go, Kyler, I didn't realize Sap you only used 2 of his shots all day.
Yeah. And again, not to like take away, like, I know on 1 he had a pretty decent drive, but like if mine was 30 yards up, then we just took mine.
Right.
But I know Zach's tee shots you didn't really use, and we'll get to that at some other point.
Except for 9.
Your ball flight.
Mine, and I'm about OB that
your
much.
ball flight trajectory is just fine. Besides, like, number 1, I think you kind of pull topped it, but your club face is just wide open. So if you can get that baby squared up, you can literally play.
That.
You can literally play.
I want to maybe a different time, but sometime teach me how to close my club face, because I would love to not be in the fucking trees every time.
Yeah. But the one thing that I put you, what are we in the 6th spot?
Yeah.
No, 5 spot.
The 5 spot for Zach.
Yeah. So the reason I put Zach in the 5 spot is he had so many good wedge shots. I'm not sure whose wedge shot used on 1. It wasn't like it was a great. Nobody had a good shot into 1. We all had like 20, 30 feet, but Zach's wedge shot on number 3 was unreal, and it wasn't like he just like kind of like skanked it up there. Like, it was like a low penetrating wedge from like 50 to 70 yards, which aren't easy wedge shots to hit for anybody. And it had like a little zip on it. So he did that on 3, I know. He did that on 6. 7, I'm not sure who shot you guys used. And then you chipped in on 8. So I can think of like 4 wedge shots that you used of yours that were probably that 50 to 70 yard range, plus you chipped one in, was huge. So that's why I put you at 5, because of the wedge play, the short game other than the putting. But that's what you need on shorter courses. So hats off to Zach at number 5.
I'll take the shit out of that. Thanks for gassing me up.
Yeah, you betcha. Number 4, I go Curb. And Curb, on your game, I remember you use your tee shots, I think, on 1.
Yep.
And was it?
He was quite a few of tee shots, I think.
1.
Was it 6?
1,
6,
the par
maybe?
5 we had. Is that the par 3?
Yeah. I think you
So
had like 3 of your tee shots for sure.
we've had 3 of my drives, and then on the par 3, I had mine that was just off the green. So 4 technically off the tee, but 1 wasn't a driver.
Yeah. And some of your like the drives when you got a hold of them too, they went straight and they went far. I don't know if you had any other shots that you used, but I remember when you did hit, it wasn't like you were all over the place. Like you were still kind of up there where you would have been able to score. And I think part of that is you playing other courses that are probably tougher than Brita too. That definitely helps too. So I put you at 4.
I'll definitely take that. Yep, it's all about consistency of the driver and not chunking it. So I'll take whatever I can get. I just need to work on the short game because, like you said, at Brita, it's an interesting course where a lot of times I'll bomb drives, but you're within this 70 to 50 yard range every time, and I don't have that fine tuned. I need to work on a medium approach shot as opposed to these full irons going in. So it's definitely a different course for me.
Yep. And then before I say this next one, which I think it's probably pretty obvious, but I want to see how many shots of, like, it's weird. Like I remember all my shots, and I kind of remember a lot of your guys' shots too, which you guys are like, how the hell do you remember all of our shots? But how many shots of builts that were used? So on number 1, you guys use your tee shot.
Mm-hmm.
Whose wedge shot did you guys use?
Pretty sure built.
Probably built, yeah.
It was built. Okay, so Bilt's got 1 shot. And then you use Pootie's. And then whose tee shot on 3 did you use?
Belt. So Belt hit a good drive on 3 and 4, so he didn't use it because he had a few drives that he was just crushing it straight down the middle.
Okay. And then not his on 5. Number 6, you used yours, I believe.
Yeah.
Because he was right. And then 7, I think you guys did use his. And then he snap hooked one out of bounds, I think, on 8 and almost on 9. So he used about, I think, 3 tee shots his.
He was OB on 9.
1 second shot. I mean, he probably made some putts too. I don't remember who made all the putts, but I think Bill kind of struggled a little bit. And then Josh, I know we used his.
I can see what's about to happen. And boy, people got me upset.
So, okay, so Josh's shots, we use his wedge shot on 3. We use his eagle putt on 4. We used his wedge shot on 6. We use his drive on 8. And that's probably about it. So we used 4 of Josh's shots.
Which is what did we have of built?
3.
About the same.
I think
we had a bunch of his. I wonder about his irons or approaches in.
I think. Yeah. So, anyways, I think I put Josh at 3, even though I think he he gave Bill kind of a run for his money a little bit, because Josh was like, he was kind of dead straight, and he hit some good wedge shots, and he made a big eagle putt that I was pretty impressed with Josh's game, because even like, so we used his tee shot on number 8, and I was just in the right rough and had 70 yards in. Mm-hmm. And he was in the middle of the fairway, had 107 yards. And I was like, Josh, I like your shot so I can hit a full wedge shot versus trying to hit a 70-yard wedge shot out of the rough and you're not going to be able to stop it on 8. So I'm like, we're taking yours, and I hit it to like 7 or 8 feet, and we ended up making the putt. And so that was just team strategy golf. So as much as I want to put Josh in the number 2 spot, I can't disrespect the runner-up Brita Club Tournament built. So I'll put Josh at 3, built at 2, and then me at 1.
Boy, I thought you were gonna do it, Lund. I thought you were gonna do it.
Yeah, maybe I should have, but well,
let me tell you, it would have been good for the views on the old YarskCap because people would have been fired up.
And like I said, I really think Josh used about 4 of his shots, and Bill probably had about 4 shots, but that's not including putting either. So
Axe played well. There's no doubt about that.
I think if you like, Bill definitely like the last 2 holes, he wasn't hitting it as good. That I think that's what I would have pushed him at the 3 spot. But it is what it is. I put him at 2, and we'll move on.
Yeah, between Zach and I think it was me and Zach that birdied number 8. We used my drive and my iron, and then Zach's chip in. So me and Zach, hell yeah, we carried the team on number 8 for the big comeback.
Yeah, what a
Hey,
huge chip in.
I know I was last pick. I was just trying to contribute as many shots as I possibly could. So it felt good, for that day. I was probably deservedly last pick, but for that day, I wasn't the worst player. So that's what I needed.
Yeah, definitely not.
No, but that's awesome. I mean, it was a hell of a golf outing. We can't wait for what's going to happen next year. And yeah, hopefully we're going to have the draft in Bondurant, and we'll have to all touch base in terms of. I mean, we had so much fun golfing 9. It's almost like we want to try and squeeze in another 9 holes at a different course, maybe. So we'll just have to see what all comes of it. And usually, if we do it around Labor Day weekend, we'll make a freaking hell of a weekend out of it. So good things to come for the golf outing and the future of the Yarski League. So I'm excited, boys.
You know what I just thought of? Why I'm going to go back and say this is why I give Josh the 3 spot. His cart situation was absolutely deserving of the 3 spot. So we'll leave it at that. It was too funny.
The tiebreaker goes to the shitty ass cart. Nope.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I thought that cart was going to be enough to get in his and Sap's head off the first tee. I thought
well, it was funny because
crumble.
We were leaving the clubhouse and Josh goes, Sap, you want to ride with me? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. And then he goes, Kyle, you want to ride 3? And I had my clubs on their cart. We were going to do it. And then we're like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So Sap hops on, and all of a sudden they fire that thing up, and that thing is just screaming, and it is not going. I'm like, oh boy, what did we do? Put Sap and Axe on the same cart that doesn't move.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty dang awesome. But you know what? That was a hell of an outing. So I guess the last items that we kind of need to touch base on, Zach, are just the overall draft recap. I know we're running a little long, so we won't go too much dive into it. But you want to just kind of give your quick overview on some of the highlighted items. And I guess, Zach, before we jump into you, Luddy, obviously while you're here, what did you kind of think of your draft and how it all went for everything?
Well, being the 10 slot, I don't know. It seemed like you do a lot of waiting, but I felt kind of good about my team because, like I said at the draft, I was taking heat the last couple of years from you guys about my running back depth. So I'm like, okay, I need to get some running backs. And I picked up Eckler and Carson and a couple other guys. I'm like, okay, I'm okay. And then I picked up Tyreek Hill for a wideout, Russell Wilson, quarterback, and I can't even think of some of the other guys. But anyways, I'm like feeling pretty good. And also we come out with these preseason projections. I'm like, fuck, I'm 8th again. And Kurt puts me at 8th for that thing. I think I was 8th for the ESPN deal. And I was like, you know what? I think last year I was projected 2 and finished 8th. So maybe I'm projected 8th and I'm going to get into that playoff situation and make a run. So.
No, that's all.
I saw Curb that you sent a trade to me today. I did look at it. Probably gonna let that one expire.
You can just click the decline one. I have no hard feelings with that. But you always send stuff out there, man. That's what me and Zach do. Everyone calls Zach the trade king, but I have more trades than him the last 2 years combined, and I kicked his ass last year. So going for back-to-back most trades, dang it. But that's all good. So, all right, Kyler, we got an idea of what your team is. And Zach, what are your kind of highlights that you kind of saw from the draft overall and some of the position group? I think you wanted to go instead of power rankings, so it's kind of hard. Just go with some position groups, but give your overall outlook.
Yeah, I sat down and looked at it, and I was like, God, it's so hard to power rank the draft because I thought across the board this was as even of a draft as we've had any year. I don't look at one team and think, wow, this team's stacked, and look at this team and think, wow, this team sucks. So what I was going to do was maybe a spin zone on this and do position groups that I really liked. So for quarterback, I was between 3 teams. I liked Ross going Kyler Murray in the 6th. I liked Luddy going Russell Wilson in the 8th, but I was going to give the nod. My favorite quarterback pick was Dak Prescott, Axman in the 7th round. I think we'll look back and realize that Axe sort of got a injury dip on this one. I think Dak Prescott is going to be pretty solid this year. So that was my favorite quarterback team, and then my least quarterback team is got to be myself. What a stand-up guy shitting on my own quarterbacks, but I would say probably my quarterback is probably the worst out of the group. So that's quarterbacks. I don't know if you guys had any that stuck out to you one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, you said that you knocked down your own quarterbacks, which I totally understand that you're kind of going with the long haul in terms of Trey Lance and Jalen Hurts. You know that those guys run the ball a lot, which in fantasy football is a cheat code. And so you know that Hurts has the juicy week one matchup. So who knows? Maybe he'll try to go the fuck off and you'll try to pawn him on somebody not as smart as everyone else. So if you listen to the pod, you're going to at least know that he's trying to do that to you. But no, I think everyone had some very interesting moves. I know Bill had a trade for a backup running back, which was very interesting, which I think kind of works well if you platoon two good running backs that are around like a top 10, so you can just play the matchup. I thought that was intriguing and kind of a nice move on his part. So I'll just give him a quick kudos on that.
Backup quarterback. I think you said running back, but I think you meant quarterback, right?
Quarterback, yep.
Yeah.
For Brady, now that he has Brady and what's his name, Tannehill.
Yep. I agree. I think Bill's got a couple good options. So speaking of running backs, I gave Bill made my love list on the running backs. He went running back heavy early to start. So out of all the teams, I think I probably like his running backs the best: Zeke, Najee Harris, and then Miles Sanders. I know, I think you and I would probably agree if he could have had CEH instead of Miles Sanders, then it would be gold plated. But I still think I probably give the nod to him in the running back room, which should be, he went the first 3 picks as running back, so he should have a stacked running back room. So which team I hate? This one got a lot of fanfare when Sapp went the first 2 picks as receivers. So Sapp's team made my my running back hate list. In the end, it didn't turn out too bad, and I think that Davante Adams and Stephon Diggs will make up for some of this. But as far as which running back group I liked the least, it was probably Sapp's.
Yep, I would 100% agree. But the thing is, I think you're going to touch base on his team very soon when it comes to wide receivers. I think knowing how weak he was at receivers, he looked to try and make up those points in other areas. His top 2 receivers are top notch. He's got the number 1 quarterback by a lot of team standards. And in terms of those running backs, I mean, I think he's got 4 guys I like. I mean, they're all going to be 3 guys, potential workhouses. And Kareem Hunt has the unlimited upside if Chubb gets hurt again like last year. So it'll be interesting. And regarding Bill, I agree that his team, I would have loved it if he would have took CEH, and the fact that he didn't for Miles Sanders. And maybe I'm in the minority, but I think I'm not a big Miles Sanders guy, and the Eagles offense in general scares me this year. And so when I just did a quick power ranking for the people, Bill's team got hurt by that Miles Sanders pick for sure.
Right. And I think you're right. I think Sapp's team got shit on early because of the 2 back-to-back receiver picks. But honestly, he made good picks following that. And you're right. He made my love list as far as receivers go because Davante Adams and Stephon Diggs, when you play Sapp looking across the matchup, those should incite fear in your opponent, because that's about as good of a 1-2 start at receiver as you could ask for. But I also wanted to shout out Pooty. I really liked his 3 receiver picks: DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, and Cooper Kupp. I think Pooty has a solid wide receiver room, but also Sapp's, he's got 2 top tier receivers. So then which team made the hate list for the receiver group? For me, it was Bill. I mean, we talked about how he went running back heavy early. He then goes Amari Cooper, Kenny Galladay, who he just traded, and then Jamar Chase, who I'm not a big fan of. He has some dart throws with Antonio Brown, Michael Pittman, and Marquez Callaway, who I think will be fine. But I do think he has the thinnest, the least enticing wide receiver room. I don't know what your thoughts are on the receivers there.
I think they are a whole bunch of dog shit. I think his receivers suck. I think his number 1 receiver has a history of getting hurt every single time. And when he's not hurt, the quarterback's already got a bum shoulder. So Amari Cooper as your number one is gross. His number two is who the hell is his number two even now? Jamar Chase, not starting him.
Jamar Chase.
Michael Pittman Jr., who's in the starting lineup right now. That's freaking gross. Carson Wentz throwing him the ball. Antonio Brown, third receiver. Marquez Callaway, he's only good for maybe 5 weeks. And Jameis just throws it to the other team. So that might be the grossest position group of everyone in the league right now.
Correct. I looked as I was doing this. Everything was pretty close. There wasn't any big favorites or big dogs, big losers, except for Bills receivers. I couldn't believe looking at his receivers how bad they look on paper right now. So I definitely agree with you. And then the last, we've got tight ends. I didn't bother with kickers or defenses. I don't know. I think for tight ends that I love, I probably am going to have to go either Travis Kelce in the second round or maybe Darren Waller in the late third. Both of those picks I think are going to be huge for Ross and Axman. And then which tight end I hated the most. This one I had a hard time too. Pooty took Dallas Goedert in the 9th, which is probably my least favorite tight end. But at the same time, he was the last starting tight end selected, so it's hard to shit on him too hard there. So I really like Kelce in the second, and Goddard's not my favorite, but I think it could work out for him. So
it'll be very interesting to see if they hold on to Zach Ertz, because that's a big thorn in his potential upside, because Zach Ertz, he's still there and he still absorbs targets. So hopefully can do well. And I hate to pile on Built here, but I'm also not the biggest Noah Fant guy, just because the top two options for a team that likes to run first, are Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And so he's getting number 3 option on a team that doesn't figure to throw the ball a whole bunch. So that was another one that I wasn't the biggest fan of. But in terms of values, I think I liked both me and your pick in terms of Andrews and Hawkinson, where we got them. So those were 2 other picks that I kind of liked. I think Waller was the biggest steal, how late he was in the third. But where we got Andrews and Hawkinson, I was a big fan of.
Yeah, and we didn't intentionally turn this into the shit on Built show, but first is the golf, then it's the receivers, and now it's the tight end. So Tino, I know you're out there listening. We love you, but we're kind of scratching our head looking at that receiver group. So
you know what? At least he didn't draft 5 quarterbacks, but hell, you know what? Maybe 5 quarterbacks would have been better. So who the hell knows? I mean, he has only missed the playoffs once, and I think his whole career. So there is a method to the madness. He's already wheeling and dealing, and I think his quarterback situation is going to be pretty solid the rest of the year. So in the end, it's all about end results. But in terms of draft day grades, obviously you don't win your draft. You don't win your league the day of the draft. You can only lose it. And as of right now, he isn't starting off strong, but you can just make a few moves and you can totally change the outlook of your season. So I expect Bill to be working stuff behind the scenes to get the job done. But that was about all I got. And I guess, no, that's a good recap on position groups. I mean, everyone wanted a power ranking, so I did a quick one while we were kind of doing this together, just so we can at least hold ourselves at a podcast accountable and see where we go from beginning of the year to the end of the year. So I guess I'll start bottom to top. I don't really have any insights on the players. I just did quick oversight of the teams. I have Schultes at the 10, where even though he's got Kamara and CEH, I worry he has no other running backs on his team. Number 9, sorry, Kyler, I'm putting you at number 9. You're going out of your 8 spot. But I love the idea of taking more running backs. I'm just not a fan of Josh Jacobs. Their early season schedule is super tough, and I worry about them taking on Kenyon Drake. So I'm just not the biggest fan of that particular running back to be the number 3. And then news today, Kamara wasn't practicing, and Jacobs is hurt as well. So hopefully they're going to be okay for the early season, but you never know. So I actually had you slotted number 9. Number 8, I had Built for obvious reasons. We've shit on him plenty.
Boy, as much as you shit on him, I can't believe that I am behind him in that spot. That's just a dagger. And not to mention, I'm going to beat Pooty this week, so I don't know how I'm in the 9th spot when I'm going to win. But you know what? I guess we'll talk, or I'll listen next week, and you guys can talk about that. I
know this is me throwing stuff at a wall. I literally threw this together in 5 minutes. So I wanted to at least give the people some power ratings. But so
now
that's
I know how Ross feels after I just completely shit on his golf game, and I was apparently wrong. So
what goes around comes back around, buddy.
absolutely.
So that's 10 through 8. And so number 7, I got our rating Sacco. I have him just making the Sacco playoffs again this year. So even with his big advantage at wide receiver and quarterback, I don't think he quite makes up the difference at running back and flex. So I just worry mainly about his flex position. Number 6 in the last playoff pot, I had Pooty. And that was really just because I don't recall. I think it was his running back 2 I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I can't recall off the top of my head. We'll give him the 6th slot. Also he had Dalvin Cook. That's a huge advantage. Number 5, I put Jared because of Christian McCaffrey. If he's healthy, you're going to be a top 5 team in the league because he's so much better than everyone else. Number 4, I had Ross. I thought I wasn't the biggest fan of his trade for Tom Brady because I'm not the biggest Kenny Galladay guy, but I know he does have upside with being the number 1 receiver. But I loved getting Kelsey where he did, and so that's what makes him a top 4 team. So he'll have that positional advantage each week. Number 3, I had Zach because I just love the core of Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon. Now that Giovanni Bernard is gone, I think that's going to be huge for Mixon getting catches. So that'll be big, and Keenan Allen's always going to be a target hog. Number 2, I had Josh because I was a big fan of Waller dropping, and Saquon, he has the unlimited upside, but he can get hurt. But I'm willing to ride that with him along with Dak. And I love my team the best. What can I say? I'm number 1. I'm going to win again this year. And so I'm just going to give the people what they want, and I'm the best, and I'll just accept the receipts at the end of the year. So I'm okay with that.
Now, mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because it's hard to put power rankings this early. But I'm surprised at where you had Pooty. I probably would have had Pooty a little higher. I actually kind of liked his team when I looked at it. I know what you're saying. You know, Dalvin Cook, Gus Edwards, Javonte Williams. You maybe wish there was one more tucked in there, but I kind of liked Pooty's team. I would have had him higher. That was the only one that stuck out to me that I might have had a little differently. But again, it's too early, and time will tell. So.
Yeah, and like I said, I came up with these off the top of the hat because I might not be taking into account how much better Dalvin Cook is than some of the other players. I think the reason that there's 2 teams that I think kind of that were in the back of the draft that gave themselves a bump, and that's because I love when you have that advantage at the tight end position. And so Ross with Kelsey and Josh with Waller and me and you with Hawkinson and whatever the fuck. I think those positional advantages where Goddard might get you like 4 or 5 points a week and our guys will get us 11 to 15. I think that's where you make up the difference. So who knows? Obviously, the season's still young. He could easily make a move, or Dalvin Cook can go the fuck off. So that was my rationale behind that. But I don't know. I mean, that's about everything that I have, guys. Is there anything else? I mean, we're running on close to an hour, so we know Josh isn't listening anymore. So if you want to say any parting words to Josh because he bitches about how long it is, feel free to do so now. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up, boys.
I mean, it's the first pod. We got a lot to cover. A lot happened, and plus we had Luddy's. Everybody loved Luddy's golf rankings, so we had to take the time, go through them thoroughly. So I knew it was going to be an hour, and it's perfect. I'm glad we took the time to go through those because that was a fan favorite. You got to give the people what you want, and the people love the golf rankings.
Yep, appreciate that.
Perfect. Well, hey, Luddy, thank you very much for being here for our very first week of another great year of the Yarski podcast. I mean, boys, it's going to be a great year. Hopefully we can continue to do this week by week for you all. And you know what? Good luck to everyone in week 1 except for Sap. I know Zach said scared of your receivers, but I'm not, bitches. Come at the champ through ex-champ. Fuck you. But hey, boys, it's been a hell of a time, and we'll talk to you all later.
All right. Thanks for having me, boys.
Peace.
See ya.
Peace.